The open world of Mario Kart World is filled with cars, buses, trains, boats, pedestrians, these guys. But where do they all actually go? Excuse me, sir, where are you going? Okay, today we'll be following a bunch of different NPCs around in our most inconspicuous disguise to see if we can figure out where the heck everyone's going. Take this car in Crown City, for example. He's clearly finished up a long day of surfing and he's headed home now, right? Well, this world is pretty big, so depending on where his home is, we could be in for a very long drive. Maybe he's headed back to his farm at Moo Moo Meadows, or maybe this is the beginning of a long road trip all the way to Peach Beach. Or, you know, maybe he's just lost, because for the entirety of the first night in game, he just stayed in Crown City making seemingly random turns. That got me thinking, are there cars that are just perpetually stuck in one area, bound to never explore the world of Mario Kart? Was the surfboard just a ruse? But as the sun began to rise, so did our surfer's courage as he finally decided to leave the city. Now that we know he's not confined to a single area, where do we go from here? Oop. I'm just a bee, nothing to worry about. Well, first we took a nice scenic tour of Whistle Stop Summit, then afterwards made our way north towards Mario Bros. Circuit. Did that guy just die? But yeah, with the rest of the world straight ahead of us, just waiting to be explored, we immediately went back to Crown City. And just like how our journey began, we are back to making completely random turns within the city. You know, I gotta say, it truly is miraculous how there are no accidents here with the way the traffic lights are always green for every direction at the same time. But before long, we were out of the city again. And as I continued to follow this guy for multiple days in game, a pattern started to become clear. While the exact route he took was never quite the same, there was an obvious outer limit to where Mr. Surfman was allowed to go. At no point did he ever drive past any of the areas bordering Crown City. But that was just one car. Is this how all of the NPC drivers behave? Well, there's only one way to find out, and that unfortunately means saying goodbye to our surfer friend here. I hope you eventually get to surf one day. Okay, this time let's try following a different driver that's headed across this big bridge. How about this bus? Apparently this is a tour bus, so what will they be touring, I wonder? Perhaps the safari of Faraway Oasis at the end of the bridge. That seems logical, right? Nope. Turns out this is actually the least scenic tour of all time. All this bus does is just cycle through Peach Stadium directly back to Crown City over and over. But luckily for the passengers, the buses in this game kind of function like real buses, making stops to drop off and pick up riders. You can even see them through the window after they board, just kind of chilling in there. So I guess only the driver is stuck in this perpetual never-ending bridge tour. Anyways, let's get some more data by following a car that takes a right after this bridge. Eventually, we gotta find someone who doesn't just immediately go back to Crown City. Wait, what is that? Oh. Okay, how about we check out some different areas? All the way in the northeasternmost part of the map at Starview Peak, I randomly decided to tail this car. Strictly for science, of course. It patrolled over to Boo Cinema, then down to DK Pass, followed by a quick trip to Sky High Sunday. It was becoming clear that this car was behaving very similarly to the surfboard car, but I figured I'd follow it around just a little bit longer to make sure. Why aren't more people in this world concerned about this? But I wanted to be sure, so I made my way over to the opposite corner to Bowser's Castle, where there were no cars to be found. Oh, wait, never mind. There's someone. Sir, are you sure this is where you want to be? This is like when Google Maps tells you you can save 5 minutes by taking a different path, and then it takes you through like a literal war zone. Also, I don't know, maybe it's the weather, but something's telling me my disguise may not be as effective here. Anyways, after casually navigating around some fire and lava, you know, just normal stuff you see in your morning commute, he did eventually find his way out, and just like the other cars we've been observing, he never strayed further than the surrounding tracks. I tested this with drivers across the entire map, and it was always the same pattern. So where do the cars go in Mario Kart World? Well, within each of their respective circles, they seemingly choose where they drive randomly. I'm sure there's some kind of logic to it, like how barely anyone drives to Bowser's Castle, for example, but the main takeaway is that you're not going to be seeing anyone drive from one end of the world to the other. But that's just the cars. There are so many more NPCs in this world, like the ones in this train, for example. Now, these definitely appear to be regular trains. They arrive, they drop people off, other people hop aboard, there's a giant ramp in the back that allows cars to drive up and park on top. But for the question of where do these trains actually go? Well, the answer is pretty much everywhere. Well, not really everywhere. We do have to stay on the tracks, but just to give you a visual representation of where this first train took me, we traveled north to Moo Moo Meadows, west past Toad's Factory in Wario Stadium, south in between Shy Guy Bazaar in Mario Bros. Circuit, all the way down to Whistle Stop Summit before looping back around and riding the way we came. But we didn't backtrack all the way to Peach Stadium. Instead, when we got back to the Toad's Factory area, this time the train took us north over Mario Circuit, past Boo Cinema, and all the way down to DK Pass. Now, throughout this entire journey, the train has been making periodic stops at the occasional train station to drop people off, which is a nice little touch of realism. You know what's not a nice little touch of realism, though? This. When the train continues from here, it goes through this giant pipe, so naturally I stayed on board to see where it goes, but I guess they've got like bee repellent or something because I was not allowed to follow it in. So where do the trains go? I guess we'll never know exactly, but at least we've got a natural endpoint of sorts. Also, if you follow a train the opposite direction from Peach Stadium, you'll find a similar situation at Peach Beach. And there's also one on the outskirts of Crown City here. Okay, that's enough about trains. Now I want to talk about boats. If you ever travel to any major water source in Mario Kart World, you're bound to find some NPCs riding around in boats. We're going to be finding out exactly where they're going, but first I want to focus on how they're going. In particular, this kayaking Toad. As I was driving around the Mario Circuit area, I came across this guy just casually ripping through some monsters on his way down the river. While that is impressive, what really grabbed my attention is how he just completely defies the laws of physics. During this adventure, we traveled up some waterfalls to Acorn Heights, then continued upstream, even picking up a log along the way for some extra resistance training, until eventually reaching what would definitely be the endpoint for any other living being. But this Toad has a destination in mind, and he will get there no matter what. But where is this destination exactly? Well, after looping around this circle between Dandelion Depths and Cheep Cheep Falls, he began backtracking the way we came. I wanted to confirm whether the boats behave the same as the cars though, where they're confined to limited areas. So I said goodbye to our absolutely shredded Toad friend and traveled all the way west to the very start of the river to begin following a Shy Guy on a jet ski. Since this is a pretty big river, I expected him to maybe cover half of it at most, but to my surprise, every time I thought he was going to turn around, he just kept going. We traveled all the way up and around the northernmost part of the river, then down to the loop where we abandoned our toad earlier, before riding all the way back to the start. Now, I imagine the same logic would apply to all of the rivers, but just to make sure, I decided to check all the other noteworthy water areas, and sure enough, the behavior was very similar at all the different spots, with boats patrolling the entirety of their river or bay or lagoon. Also, this isn't really a boat, but I wanted to mention it because I thought it was pretty cool. While I was checking the water near the Great Question Mark Block ruins, a plane randomly landed next to me. So naturally, I decided to follow it. And after slowly driving around in a circle for a bit, it took off and flew away. Why did it land here in the first place? Who knows, but I had a nice time. Anyways, vehicles are not the only means of transportation. If you spend any time at all driving around this world, you'll quickly notice an almost alarming amount of backpackers walking along the side of the road. But do these backpackers have any specific destination, or are they just walking around aimlessly? Right away, you'll notice a couple things with these pedestrians. One, they walk really slowly. Like, my 95-year-old grandma could dust these guys. And two, if you get too close to them, they will immediately turn around and start cheering for some reason. I don't know, maybe they just really like bees. So when following these guys, we have to remember to be extra stealthy and keep our distance. Oh, okay, I guess he can still see me. I started tracking a toad just outside of Salty Speedway, and he spent over an entire day just casually making his way over to Faraway Oasis. That is all the way up until this river here, where he decided he didn't want to get his feet wet, I guess, because he just immediately turned around and started heading back the way he came. I found a similar situation with another backpacking toad between Shy Guy Bazaar and Desert Hills. It looks like he might be on some kind of a spiritual journey, perhaps? Or I don't know, maybe he's just lost and hallucinating. It's hard to tell. But there was one more thing I wanted to check before coming to any conclusions about these guys. What about the backpackers who exit the train at one of the stations? At the Moo Moo Meadows stop, I began stealthily tailing this green Shy Guy. After a while, our new friend slowly meandered his way southwest towards Peach Stadium, then continued walking throughout the entire night and into the next morning towards Choco Mountain. Here is where I made a mistake though. Since I need to keep my distance, I've been driving a bit ahead to get better vantage points, and as I was prepping my next spot over this ramp here, I failed to realize that there is a deadly chocolate river waiting for me. I was worried that the Shy Guy might have despawned during the momentary Lakitu reset, so I quickly rushed back there only to find that he was still just chilling there. So I drove back ahead, avoiding a chocolatey demise this time, but after waiting for a bit, the Shy Guy never came over that ramp. And when I went to check on him this time, he was actually gone. Was that just the natural end of his journey? Was he out of view for too long? Or were there perhaps more nefarious forces at play? But that's a mystery for another time. For now, I think we can pretty confidently say that the backpackers, like the cars, have a limited range of how far they'll go before turning back around or getting abducted. So all in all, where do the citizens of Mario Kart World go? Well, the short answer is it depends on the means of transportation. They could be confined to a relatively small area, or they could have access to a big portion of the world via train track or a river. Regardless of exactly where they're going though, it's nice how alive the world feels as a result of their constant movement. The more you think about it though, the more you realize that everyone in this world is in a never-ending limbo of aimless roaming, never able to reach a destination, with the creeping inevitability of getting sucked up by a UFO constantly hanging over their heads. But hey, at least we got these guys. Thank you so much for watching. Subscribe if you liked the video, and I'll catch you in the next one.